The FCC, Father's Day, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is June 21st, 2022. It is the 172nd day of the year. There are 193 days left in 2022. It's the 25th Tuesday in the 26th week, and it is the first day of summer. Congratulations, we made it. And if today's your birthday, guess what? You're still a Gemini. Today is National Selfie Day. Thanks to social media and smartphones, June 21st recognizes a form of self-portrait that couldn't exist without them. It's National Selfie Day. We are encouraged to take creative, appropriately creative, selfies and share them on social media. While the act of a selfie may predate social media and smartphones and the word itself, the popularity of taking these self-portraits keeps increasing. Selfie is actually in the Oxford Dictionary now. All right, let's see what else June 21st has given us. 1846, the first officially recorded organized baseball game is played under Alexander Cartwright's rules in Hoboken, New Jersey, with the New York Baseball Club defeating the Knickerbockers 23-1. Cartwright was the umpire. 1910, the first Father's Day is celebrated in Spokane, Washington. Who knew? Father's Day came from Spokane, Washington? 1934, the Communications Act of 1934 establishes the United States Federal Communication Commission, the FCC. 1942, World War II, a Japanese submarine surfaces near the Columbia River in Oregon, firing 17 shells on Fort Stevens in one of only a handful of attacks by Japan against the United States mainland. They had made a couple different attacks to kind of shake up the United States, and this was just another one of them. I mean, we talked in February about how they shelled the oil fields in February of 1942. This one wasn't their last attempt to do some damage to the United States mainland. So what the Japanese submarine did is they waited around till fishing vessels were coming back in. They followed them in so they could get around the minefields that the United States had laid out there to stop this kind of thing. Well, they finally make their way to the mouth of the Columbia River. They surface not too far west from Astoria, Oregon, right offshore of Fort Stevens. Fort Stevens is an old Civil War fort that's been there forever. It's still there. You can go visit. It's like this tourist thing now. But they surfaced around midnight and used its 140 millimeter deck gun to fire 17 shells at the fort. Now, the commander, believing that muzzle flashes from the fort's gun would only serve to more clearly reveal their position, the commander of Fort Stevens ordered the men not to return fire. The plan worked. This bombardment did basically nothing. It didn't do any damage. It maybe delayed a couple baseball games. That's about it. And that's because a local baseball field took the shells. Now, this submarine was called I-25. The I-25 wasn't finished. They showed back up in September of 1942. This time, they had a float plane attached to the front of it, and they set this thing off, again, off the Oregon coast. I don't know what these guys' deal was with Oregon, but they were out to get them. So they set up this float plane who flies over a wooded area near Brookings, Oregon, which is on the south side of Oregon, and they dropped a pair of incendiary bombs in hopes of starting a forest fire. Thanks to light winds and a quick response from local fire patrols, the bombing failed to really do anything. Later in the month, they surfaced again near Brookings and tried the same thing, this time dropped a bomb on Brookings. Again, didn't really do any damage. The pilot from the Japanese float plane would later make several goodwill visits to Brookings during the 1960s, and he was even proclaimed an honorary citizen of the town when he died in 1997. 1943, the Philadelphia Eagles and Pittsburgh Steelers of the NFL merged for one season due to a player shortage caused by World War II. 1960, the first NASCAR race was held at Charlotte Motor Speedway. 1964, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is approved after surviving an 83-day filibuster in the United States Senate. Talked about this one year before last. It was our deep dive then. 1978, Garfield's first comic strip, originally published locally as John in 1976, goes into nationwide syndication. 1979, email marketing becomes a thing. Not long after that, spam emails become a thing. 2005, following a series of Michelin tire failures during the United States Grand Prix weekend at Indianapolis, and without an agreement being reached, 14 cars from 7 teams with Michelin tires on withdrew after completing the formation lap, leaving only 6 cars from 3 teams on Bridgestone tires to race. Basically, these tires were failing and guys were just smacking into the wall, and it was something to do with their new mix. They decided, this was all during practice, they just decided they weren't going to race these tires. 2018, the 10 millionth US patent is issued. Now, what's interesting is there was, I forget the exact guy, but in the 1930s, the new guy of the patent office, he said he would take the job, but he knew he'd be out of a job within a year or two because everything that could be invented was invented already. That was 1932. This guy would wake up today and see the internet and satellites and everything else. He'd freak out. Premiered on June 21st, 1966, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? This is a movie based on the play of the same name. The film follows a bitter couple as they take out their booze-soaked frustrations on a younger couple. The film was nominated for 13 Academy Awards and earned Elizabeth Taylor her 2nd Academy Award for Best Actress. It's also starred Richard Burton and George Segal. Great movie. Born on June 21st, 1985, Lana Del Rey, also known as her original name, Elizabeth Woolridge Grant. She's an American singer and songwriter. Her music is noted for its cinematic quality and exploration of tragic romance, glamour, and melancholy. She's got a beautiful voice. I don't like a lot of her music. It's a little too slow for me, but she's got a great voice. And she has the absolute best name for an album, probably the best I've heard in the last 20 years. Chemtrails Over the Country Club. That's a great name for an album. Died on June 21st, 1903, James Pond, American war hero who was an officer for the Union Army during the American Civil War and received the Medal of Honor for his actions at the Battle of Baxter Springs. Before he was in the military, he was a member of the Underground Railroad and helped slaves escape to freedom. He wrote a book called Eccentricities of a Genius in 1900. After the war, he became a lecture manager, and one of his clients was Mark Twain. He died of gangrene. Yeah, he had an ulcer on his right foot and it turned gangrenous, and that was it. They amputated it from the knee down, but afterwards it took a turn for the worse and he passed away. He was 65 years old. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a productive day, and be nice to each other.